Hi. Hi, Pastor Furtick. Hi, Pastor Larry, and anyone else on YouTube that's listening. Um, After hearing today's sermon uh, at Elevation, I had to make this video, and I called it the video you've been perhaps waiting for because in this video, I'm going to go into a little more detail about my preaching journey. I did the personal journey thing. I told you about, yeah, I told you about the disability and personal journey and all that in another video. But I haven't, and I even talked about my songwriting journey, but I haven't talked about my preaching journey. And for you preachers that are watching out there, um, God knows how many of you are watching out there. For you preachers that are watching out there, and just YouTubers, I'm going to share a bit of my story regarding preaching. Okay, so let's pray. And I probably will cry through this video. Just fair warning now. So if I'm blubbering, yeah, you'll see why when I get to that part of the story. And for those of you who look at me on Facebook and whatever, um, I'm not posting this on Facebook or X, just because. So this is going to be an exclusive YouTube video. So let's pray. Father, help me through this, please. Hard to talk about, but it's necessary so that they understand what today's sermon did for me and what the sermons uh, have done for me. Uh, uh, okay. Um, Speak to me, speak through me, in the name of Jesus. Amen. So, hi guys. So, after high school, if you want to know about my personal journey, there's another video. I forget what it's called. You can look for it. It talks about my personal journey, about my disability and stuff like that. But here, I'm going to focus on my preaching journey. After high school, I went to a regular high school once. Went to a regular high school, graduated with honors, and not yes, I graduated with honors. I got the highest mark in parenting, uh, and the highest mark in like vocal music and other stuff. So after I graduated high school, I didn't know what I was gonna do. I had no idea, no clue. Um, so af well, and then I originally wanted to be a writer, and I am a writer, but yeah, so I originally wanted to do that. So I was like, okay, so I went to a program for people with disabilities. Uh, and that program, although it taught me some things, it didn't really teach me much. And after I graduated from that program, uh, I went to apply for journalism, and because I figured, okay, writer, journalist, and whatever. I got rejected from every journalism program ever. Not ever, but all the ones I applied to, I got rejected to from. So I was like, what do I do? Because at the time, Tyndale, which is my Bible college, was not even on my radar. Because I remember even in high school when I was about to graduate, they said, she said, I remember having a conversation with somebody saying you should said said you should think of Tyndale, and I thought, me, a preacher, no, yeah, right, no, because I saw my dad's a pastor and my mother was a pastor's wife, so I saw the whole stress and all that stuff, and I thought, I'm gonna keep it clean here. I thought, heck no. I thought that I am not gonna do that. So I went to so I took a few creative writing courses, and when I took the creative writing courses, like, I could come up with the story, but I wasn't really um that much of a good like writer. I didn't really get a lot of encouragement when it came to my writing. So I was like, okay, this is not working out. So after that, I still didn't know what I was gonna do really, because that was just um a set of courses, and then after those courses were done, I was like, okay, what am I going to do? And um, okay, and I was like, oh, Tyndale has, oh, just go there or go to Tyndale. It's called Tyndale University if you want to look it up. Tyndale University in Toronto. If you are so inclined to look it up. So I went to Tyndale for English. I started as an English major, but ha, halfway through my degree, that's where, sorry, I'll back up. That's where I met Brian Stiller, who was then the president of Tyndale. Hi, hi, Brian. And I told him one day, oh yeah, I'm a writer and whatever, and yes, I'm publishing a book. And he's like, uh, you're publishing a book and you're doing it by yourself and you're spending that much money? No. So he helped me publish my first independent faith-based novel called and but the not the novel didn't do well. We tried uh oh god. We tried a launch party, we tried all that. The novel still didn't do well. And I wrote another novel uh called Jesse's Destiny and uh The Soldier and the Stripper, which also didn't do well. So I put them uh, my first novel is just right now it's all my novels are on this site called Inked if you like uh if your wife or anybody's wife or partner is so inclined, it's inkit.com, and it's just my name. So I'll put all these links um, in here. So I'll put the uh, link it thing in the description. So if you're so inclined, you can read that. So these three novel attempts didn't go well, but uh, but I was like, okay, these novel attempts aren't going well. Nothing is really going well. What do I do? At 23, at the same time that I had this writing thing going on, at 23, um, I knew that God had called me to preach. What happened was, what had happened was, I was in my bed and I was watching something. Then I had a TV in my room. Now I don't. So, but then I had a TV in my room, and I was watching some prayer service uh, from Ottawa, which is our nation's capital here in Canada. So, and then in the middle of watching that prayer service, he said, "You're a voice for our generation." And I was like, okay, can I go back to sleep now? I was like, he said, "You're a voice for a generation." And I thought, yeah, okay, can I go to sleep now? So I took that and I kind of ran with it. So I came up with this website and uh, Emancipation Bookshelf, thinking that I would get my romance novels because they weren't doing well, thinking that I would get them online and do all that. Um, and that website didn't go well because I didn't frankly know what I was doing. I just ran with it and it was just not good. And through through that time I had many rejections and all that stuff. So my writing thing wasn't going well. Uh, like, because at the time I thought the writing would lead to the preaching, but that didn't happen. So the church I was going to at the time, um, I really admired the pastor, and looking back now, it it came to kind of like an unhealthy uh, pastor worship thing. It was not like the way I do now, like I respect and love my pastor. No, it wasn't that. It was like this man is everything. He liked to read like me. He liked to whatever like me. And be careful when your love and respect for your pastor goes into worship of the pastor. So if this pastor doesn't like me, I'm devastated. So be careful if that happens. But it happened to me. And at that time too, I was in in 2009, it was around that time. And I was on, as part of promotion for the book, I was on um, a program called 100 Huntley Street, which I will too put the link to that. But all they wanted to talk about was my disability and whatever. They didn't want to talk about me as a writer or as a preacher. they didn't care, but that they just wanted the inspirational story, which I don't mind giving, but seriously. Um, but anyway, so I will put that link, 100 Huntley Street interview from 2009 in there. And the person that I talk about in that interview, um, uh, it came to a point where I was attending that church at the time, and I tried and tried and tried to get through. I tried getting through with my songs. I tried um, getting and and all this time I thought I heard God, but now I don't think it was God. I think it was more me. I think my senses weren't as honed as they are now. Not that I'm perfect, I make mistakes every day. So so I tried and he and this person knew that I was a preach and that I could speak and I could talk and we you know we got along really well. But everything I tried, the door slammed. And oh my God, this is this is the hard part. Um, I was at that church for 7 years, and they loved me, and they weren't mean. They loved me, and they did all that stuff for me. Um, uh, but there was a time where, like, like the, there was a time where I actually wanted to go to the altar and it was a whole big deal. Like it was a, oh my God, she wants to go to the altar. What's going on? And it's like, person, I have issues. Um, a lot of people, when you have a disability, and and Lisa Harper, when she came to Elevation, talked about a friend with the same issue. Um, only see the disability. They don't see you have other issues, other wants, other needs, other sins, other whatever. So I wanted to go to the altar because, I think I had something to confess with the Lord. But it was a whole issue, and things just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I just, you know how you're supposed to come to church and feel like uplifted. I was like, went to church and felt more depressed because not that they not not that what they were preaching was wrong or heretical or whatever, but because I saw what was going on behind the scenes and I saw how, I felt like, uh, oh, this is wonderful. We have a token. Like, it's just, yeah. I felt like a token, not really a person, but just a token. Like, um, well, yeah. So, okay. And here's where the heartbreaking part comes in. I'm gonna try not to cry here. Um, I knew that God had um said that I was leaving, and and I knew that in my spirit. I just didn't know when. And there was a time where he this was a mega church. So when the pastor came and hugged me and whatever ever, and No, he didn't hug me at the step. I was at the I was at the altar again, and he said to me, "You'll never be able to preach the sorry, you'll never be able to preach the gospel until you get out of this chair." Yes, that's what he said to me. So, yeah. So, okay, I went home and I didn't attend church for about a year. And at that time, there was no online church, so I didn't attend church for about a year. So, the worship leader at that church had started his own church, and so I attended I went to that church, and at the beginning it was all loving and all that stuff, but as I told you, because I'm often one of the few people with disabilities, and because I need help, I get to see um, different aspects of the church and ministry. So I just saw things that were not, you know, didn't didn't sit well with my spirit again. Uh, and they 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 were welcoming and whatever, and this was much better than the old church that I was at. But like, um, it's just sometimes at that church I felt like more of a burden than uh more of a burden than a person, you know, because when you have when you have the volunteers or staff having to like wait at specific doors for you or whatever, you some people love to do it, but some most times it began to feel like a burden. It just began to feel like I was a burden, and nobody likes to feel like that. And I just couldn't um I just couldn't feel like that because I constantly felt like um people had to go out of their way for me and whatever, and I just felt like maybe it would be better if I wasn't there. Now I only left that church because that, but I left that church because they were moving. And when they moved, um, because I figured I'm gonna stick it out or whatever, but they moved way across the city, and by the time I got there, it was church was over, and I thought this is just not working out anyway, and um I feel like a burden, and this is just I'm always watching the time to get the bus, because here in Toronto, I don't know how it works in Charlotte. I know Charlotte's a smaller city, but here in Toronto, we have something for people with disabilities called Wheel-Trans, where they pick you up and drop you off at a certain time. So basically, I would get to church, and then an hour after being there, I would have to leave because my bus would come. And then they said the new church would be wheelchair accessible, but it wasn't. And yeah, so there, although they were loving and wonderful, I felt like a burden there too, because it was like, and some of the people uh that were that would be my assistant, because the pastor set up um a a thing that someone would assist me, but some of the people that were my assistants were just like not very nice. They seemed nice uh from the outside, but they weren't very nice. And I just was like, there is no way I can stay here. Because feeling like a burden and traveling so far, when they were downtown Toronto, it was fine. Took me 15 minutes, but then I had to uh, travel much longer, and I thought I was going to stick it out. Um, uh, I was going to stick it out because, yeah, I'm going to stick it out. And at that time, I had already started watching Elevation, and I will tell the Elevation story next. So I left that church, but back up to 2017. That was about 2019 that I left uh, that other church. But back up to 2017. Um, 2017, I was on the internet looking for uh, Bishop's. Bishop had just come out with a book called Soar, and okay, but me, I like to know what the book is like, and I like to know all the interviews. So I typed in Bishop Soar, and it was the interview with him and Pastor Stephen. So I was watching that interview, and I was like, Bishop Jakes, I know, but who are you? Who is this? I don't know this person. So after the interview, I typed in I didn't type it in. I cheated and cut and pasted. So I cut and pasted his name into the YouTube uh, bar thing. And yeah, so that's how I found Elevation. And I kept watching and watching and watching. And a bit different than most people is that I connected with him, not only the spiritual teaching and all that stuff, that's how most people connect with Elevation, because the teaching is so wonderful and it's from God or whatever. But I am also a songwriter. Hmm. I am also a preacher. And I thought, oh my God, he is too! That's awesome! So I really connected. And my my one pastor, that first pastor was a is a phenomenal preacher, and the second pastor was a phenomenal preacher and songwriter, but he's kind of Christian old school. Like I love him, not old school, but he's a phenomenal person. But it he just didn't connect with me or understand. So I just was like, oh my God, when I saw Pastor Steven, and I was like, here, oh my God, he's a preacher, so am I. He's a songwriter, so am I. And it's not just it's Christian music that he writes, but he listens to other stuff too. And I thought, oh my God, I found my person. And because we connected there, and we've always connected there. So, because um, most people are preachers or songwriters. Very rarely you find both. And if you find both, they're mostly in the gospel space. But I knew that I was both, and I was always told that that's so wrong. You can't you can't listen to Christian, you can't listen to secular music and Christian music. You've got to choose. But inside me, I was like, I can't choose because it's me. I can't throw away part of me. And uh, so yeah, so I connected with Elevation and so uh, I began to watch Elevation Worship. I watched all of Pastor's sermons and other sermons too. Yours, Pastor Larry, and whatever too. And coming out of that first church, let me go back to YouTube because I did say I was going to talk about my preaching journey, but you know me, I ramble a lot. So when I was coming out of that first church, I knew I had a lot to say because remember, before that, in like 2007, the Lord said, "You're a voice for a generation," and okay, so I was like, I can't. After he told me, um, you will never preach until you get out of this chair. And I thought, okay, but I have so much to say. Where can I say it? What can I do? So at that time, YouTube was new. It was about 2007, 2008-ish. Um, so I was like, okay, I'll go to YouTube. I had an account, but I had no idea how to upload or whatever. So I was watching a video, and the person said I use Windows. I guess it was Windows Movie Maker to make this video. So I downloaded Windows Movie Maker, which at that time it was free. Everything was free. You have to pay for everything now. But at that time it was free. And because I'm on government assistance, I can afford to pay for stuff like that. So um so I started preaching on YouTube. And when I first was preaching on YouTube, um, I was only preaching to myself, basically. But if you look at those early videos, although I thought it was preaching to myself, I acted like I had a million people watching. I was like, "Hi guys," like how I am now. So anyway, fast forward to finding Elevation, watching Master Steven, blah blah blah. So um one day about 2000 and throughout all this, I was preaching. Like sometimes I would preach on Saturdays, sometimes I would preach radically. Sometimes I wouldn't preach for months. As it wasn't as often as now. I would preach once a month or whatever, whenever the mood would strike me. And throughout all that time was rejection, rejection, rejection for many different things. So tried to do that and tried to start a church that didn't work out, tried to all that. So fast forward to 2019. Okay, so I had left my second church. Actually, technically is my third because my first was my father's, uh, and a whole bunch of craziness went there. Um, cause like it's very old school. Uh, uh, no disrespect to my dad, but it was just very old school. Where everywhere you go, you feel like God doesn't love you because you see all this people getting healed, and you're like, why am I not getting healed? Why am I not special enough? And then you have these quacks. I can call them quacks telling your parents that, oh, she'll walk when she's 6. Give her this and she'll walk. And I've had oil poured on my head, a bunch of crazy stuff. When we are in person, Pastor Burdick, I will tell you all the crazy stuff I've had done to me over the years. um, but yeah, I had a bunch of crazy stuff happen there. But yeah, back to my third church. So when I left the third church in 2019, because I had started with elevation in 20. So I was watching elevation. I was going to church in the morning and then watching elevation at night at 5. I remember I would go to church in the morning and go to church in the morning, physical church, come home, preach, and then watch elevation. I did that for about 6 months. I did that because I was still feeling it. And I remember before my other church moved and before I really left, I remember on New Year's Eve and feeling like I'm not supposed to be here. I remember I remember thinking, "Oh my gosh, what is Pastor Stephen preaching about?" That this New Year's Eve, it was come through dripping, and I'm gonna tell you that is one of the best New Year's New Year's sermons ever. I love that sermon, but yeah, oh, so when I left the third church, I still watch Elevation, and I had attended. I'm like, okay, um, let me just, cause then online churches were getting really popular, so I used to attend 3. I used to attend Elevation at 5, another one at 7, and another one at Monday morning. And God said, choose. He said, if he said, if you're going to do this all the way. Don't, he said, you wouldn't visit 3 churches in a day. So don't do it because you're online. Um, find the pastor, find the church, that's it. So I stopped the other 2 that I was attending and just do what like I do now, just attend elevation. Yes, I do watch other sermons. Yes, I do listen to other podcasts, and it's not that kind of thing where I only watch Pastor Stephen. But I consider elevation my church, my home, my family. So whatever other sermons I watch or whatever, that's secondary. Elevation Church is my house, my uh pastoral house. So uh when so um and throughout all of this, from the time I left uh the first church, I was preaching. Keep in mind, I was preaching sometimes sporadically, sometimes on Saturdays, sometimes uh, putting up series and whatever I was doing. So throughout all this church drama, I was preaching. So so I so 2019, I had made the decision that yes, elevation is my home because we connected not only as preachers but as songwriters and all that stuff, and I thought it was so cool because I could I could relate not to just the Bible stuff and the revelatory stuff that other people could relate to, but to the doubts and to the uh whatever. And yeah. So in 2019, I was watching a sermon. I forget what it was. And the Lord's before that sermon, the Lord told me, jump in and swim. And when I was watching that sermon, no. Before that sermon, in 2018, first of all, let me back up from that and say I always, because I'm a reader and because I love books, um, I always give my pastors books. For the first megachurch pastor, I gave a book called Letters to Pastors. It's a book I got in Bible college, and I thought and that I thought that would help him. For my second pastor, I bought on Amazon because he's a worshiper and a worship leader. I bought on Amazon the Then Sings My Soul uh, books, whereas Then Sings My Soul is a book about the hymns. They tell you where the certain hymns come from and whatever. So um I was watching Pastor Stephen, and I was like um the and I was thinking of, okay, I want to gift him something. What do I gift him? And so I gave as a gift. I don't know if you remember this, Pastor, and I'm not even sure if you remember it was me that gave you this gift. But I had read a book called Sinner's Creed by Scott Stapp, and the Lord said, buy this book and give it. No, no, it had nothing to do with, well, it had everything to do with the Lord. But I just had the impression to get you something because I love to give gifts. I'm such a giver, and love to give gifts of books. So, and I gave my other two pastors books. So I was like, what book would he like? And I didn't want to get you a book on prayer or something, because I know everybody, and any book I would get you, it would be by one of your friends or something you can probably get for free for yourself. But um, I remember reading Sinner's Creed by Scott Stapp, and I thought, oh, rock, he loves rock music, so I will get him that book. And because I know a bit of your personal story and some of your challenges that you had with your dad. I know you made peace with him before he passed, thank God, but I knew that you had some challenges with your dad, so uh, that was in there too. And I thought maybe he'd like this book. So I sent that book to you and didn't think about it again or whatever. Um, uh, but in 2019 now, I was watching a sermon and I remember I was drinking my juice. It was juice I was drinking, and the Lord said, "Write to him what I told you." The jumping and swim thing, and I was like, "What?" He's like, "Write to him what I told you." So I started writing the letter, but I thought, this is stupid. You know, you know who he is, and you know, like who he hangs out with. He knows everybody in the Christian industry. He knows basically everybody, all the pastors I love. He knows. They're probably all on his phone. He's not gonna want to hear from me. And he's and but I started writing the letter, and then it took me um that letter goes through 3 weeks of me writing a bit and then leaving it and then adding a bit more and then leaving it and then writing a bit and saying, he said, finally send it. And I said, okay. So I took to the bus to the post office, sent it, and and yeah, so I sent that letter, and a few weeks later, you said something, and I'm like, oh my God, you got my letter. I think you said something about a, a theologian said, uh, people's opinion of me is not my business, and that was something from my letter. Now, I don't know if you were referring to me, but something told me that you got my letter. So, yeah. So, in 2022, I was watching you and you talked about this guy and um you talked about this guy who was like, stay in your lane, and the Lord said he needs to hear that story about you and that other guy, because I could tell you were a bit uh, frustrated and hurt by somebody saying that. So I posted on Instagram. Now I don't use Instagram hardly, but I posted on Instagram, sing anyway. So I was like, okay, all right. And then the other, and then that week, I knew you got that letter because you said something. You said so many things other than that. And then you came out with Might Get Loud. And then when I think of Might Get Loud, I think of, oh yeah, maybe I inspired that song. Because sing anyway, but it might get loud. So I was like, I don't know if I inspired that song, but every time I hear that song now, I'm like, oh yeah, yeah. It 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 kind it kind of reminds me of what I said. So yeah. So our journey has been long together, Pastor Stevens. So as of so I don't when you came out with your book, The New You, and I think it was 24 that you came out with The New You, I was like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you. And I noticed that nobody mentioned it was the first book with your face on it. So I've read all 6 of your books. I've read Sun Stand Still. I've read Crash the Chatterbox. I've read Greater. I've read 7 Mile Miracle. I've read uh, Unqualified, and I read The New You. So I read all of them. And that is the first book with your face on it. So I posted something on Instagram. Uh, I'm so proud of you, this and this and this and this last year. Uh, and then I realized now you're watching my videos because I hear uh I began to hear bits and bites of what I said. I'm like, oh, he watched it and watched it. And to be quite honest, I was like, at first, I didn't know what to think. I was like, transparently, I was like, is he stealing my sermons? And the Lord said, no, you're so inspiring him that he's taking what you've inspired him about and adding his own sauce. And I'm like, really? A preacher like that? And I was like, oh, and I thought, oh, that's what he's doing. So so I wasn't confused or miffed anymore because I know that I was inspiring you and it's been so great and and I know you've seen every sermon for probably a good year. I I don't know if you watched me last year, but yeah, I and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. And don't worry, I'm not mad anymore. I was confused because I was like, what is that? That seems like an echo of what I just said. What's going on here? And the Lord said, no, you're so inspiring. What I put in you is changing his thinking. And I thought, oh my God, really? So I don't feel that way anymore. I know that what God has put in you hasn't, what God has put in me has inspired you. So I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful. And I was watching, fast forward to today. I was watching the I was watching the sermon today that Pastor Larry did, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's," and I felt so honored. You even gave the character my name, and coming from two churches, like one church told me that I would never preach because until I get out of this chair. And one church, although they were nice, made me feel like a burden, made me feel like I was like just, oh, we have to, like, whatever. Coming from that and knowing that you're such an awesome communicator and affecting the world, you guys, you both are. And knowing that you see me, it's, it's beyond my understanding. And I've gotten flack from family saying, "You haven't attended church in 5 years." I'm like, haven't attended church in 5 years? This is the most validated, the most seen, the most understood by house that I've ever been. Even when it came to last year's um a, a Bible study that Holly did, it was based on a sermon title. Um, when you're in your 40s and you feel that, like, making friends, because I said that was an issue for me, um and then the fact that that helps so many people, i'm I'm just beyond, like, I don't know, just me in my little office, and I don't have, like, the fancy bells and whistles that other people have. I don't even tell people to subscribe to me. But the fact that you are who you are in the Christian community, and the fact that you see me after being told no and feeling like a burden from other preachers who don't have the influence that you do, it just, oh God, I don't know what to say, but thank you. Thank you, Pastor Larry, for today's sermon. Thank you, Pastor Stephen, for, I don't know. One day we will preach together, by the way, and that's going to happen. I already I already have the text and how we're going to do it. Uh, we're going to do it through Zoom, probably because traveling for me is a nightmare. But uh, we will do it because I think the world needs to hear this story. And I'll tell you why. Because um, externally, we are totally different. You have been married for 20 years. I have been single all my life. You come from a small town. I was raised in a big city. You're able bodied, I'm disabled. And, like, the fact that we just so align on so many things, and that you're with you, that you're sharing me with your staff. I'm like, what do they do? All sit around and watch me? Oh my God, so incredible. I'm just so honored. Thank you, Pastor Larry, for this morning. And thank you, Pastor Verdict for like, oh my God, seeing me and stuff, and we will preach together. And that is going to happen. As to when and how, I don't know. But yeah, and if there's any way I could help with anything, just get one of the team to reach out to me. And like, I'm not asking this for me for fame. I don't care about all that stuff. It's all to the glory of God. But if there's anything you feel I could help with, or anything that, you just think, if you just want to, get someone from the team to hit me up on socials, and, we can work something out. I'm not scary. I'm just a really regular person with a, you know, um, you know, with a passion to see souls for the kingdom. And I think the world needs to see our relationship. I know that it's only my side, and I don't know how you got in touch with me, but I need to hear your side, and the world needs to hear our side, because the world is just like, white, black, this and that. We can't do this, we can't do that. The world's never seen a partnership like ours. This story has never been told. And um and I'd love to write with you. I'd love to write with Chris and the whole gang, just because I don't want anything but to just spread the glory of God to people, and uh, encourage people. So if you want to, you can tell them you can tell the team or whatever to hit me up. Just make sure it's on the thing with the blue star, so I know it's you and not some kind of phony baloney person. But take care. Bye, you guys. Love you all. Thank you so much. Bye. Hope this video wasn't too long and rambling.